Welcome back, folks. Dow's down 137. You get the Nasdaq up 54. S&Ps are up 7.5. Let's go over to our man, Mr. Teddy Kekstadt, as we do each and every Wednesday, folks, at 40 past the hour. You can reach Teddy every trading day at forex-trading-unlocked.com. That's forex-trading-unlocked.com. Teddy Kekstadt, what's going on, brother?
It's a quiet day in the currencies. That's what's going on.
Quiet day in the currencies. Hey, let me ask you something. I forgot the correlation, the Swiss franc, right? The correlation of the Swiss franc and the dollar were at like 97. So what happens when it's at par?
When the U.S. dollar is at par with the Swiss franc, well, that was something that it's having a lot of trouble trying to do. That's for sure.
Right. Right.
But when it does that, you got to remember the U.S. dollar and the Swiss are both flight to quality currencies. So when the U.S. dollar gets above parity, that starts to show the weakness as far as the Swiss globally, as far as the flight to quality currency, for sure, once it gets above parity.
I see. Okay, cool. And I guess the British pound, right? That looks like it's taking some heat here, right?
A little bit, you know, it's kind of funny because if the British pound had a really nice bounce from its low from a month and a half ago, and it set up just had a lower move swing high, and it has kind of a head and shoulders pattern. And if you look at the most recent major swing lows in it, that sets a nice little neckline, but it's really wedging. Like it already took out the neckline, but we're not getting any real selling pressure.
Okay.
So and I think if you people, when you look at the dollar index, like right now, it's really settled into a consolidation range. And I think that the pound is doing the same as well, because if the head and shoulders pattern would work, we should be already seeing the market really selling off and starting to bang new lows that it hasn't seen in basically the past 2 months.
Right.
Since we're not doing that, I think you got to remember Brexit is still going on.
Yeah.
The ECB is acting contrary to what the BOE wants to do.
Okay.
So when you have that conflict, I think that's where we're actually getting stability with the pound, whereas with the euro, there's weakness, but the ECB is willing to come in right now. They're just kind of have a little bit of a stranglehold on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the EU is actually coming out of lockdown and where they were locked down and seems to be doing all right, whereas in the UK, things aren't exactly moving that quickly, you know. So it's a big tug of war right now with the major currencies versus themselves. You know, like for instance, if you look at like the euro pound cross or the euro Swiss cross, those are markets that have been trending, you know, for the past few months as well.
Yes.
Some of those markets are trending, but they're not versus the dollar. They're consolidating versus the dollar.
Okay.
So that means that to me, that tells me that besides the fact that there's dollar strength, I mean, the coronavirus trade for the dollar, I think, is pretty much over unless we were to have some major resurgence of cases and you know, all of a sudden shutdowns globally. But if that doesn't happen, which hopefully it doesn't, we've hit the upper boundaries of the bullishness for the dollar, where the dollar was driving the trade globally. Now we have divergence. Like you look at the Australian dollar versus the US dollar. That was one of the first currencies to bounce. First it looked like it was a correction. Well, now it's been rallying for 2 months. So even though it's overall in a bear market, it's been a bull for 2 months, and you can't deny that, even if it's grinding now, you know.
Yeah,
but now,
I mean,
like, when I said the correlation.
Yeah, percentage-wise, 55 Aussie dollars, folks. Now you're at 64. That's a monster move, huh? Holy cow.
Right.
Yeah.
Now all these currencies, especially the New Zealand dollar, they were trading in tandem. Now we have divergence finally coming, like where if you look at like the Australian dollar New Zealand cross, the New Zealand dollar is getting crushed by the Australian dollar. Okay, so that trend is not stopping. And you can see how the Australian dollar right now, like I said, has had this nice bounce. The New Zealand dollar is not making higher move highs and higher move lows. It actually just made a lower move high and a lower move low. So now we're starting to see that kind of a trade develop.
Yeah.
You know, so like you said with the Swiss, like, you know, if you mentioned parity, we're hitting boundaries with the reserve currencies of flight to quality, like the dollar and the Swiss. There's really not much for them to do. But for the other currencies, that's a totally different dynamic. And I think that's where the trade really is going to be, because I wouldn't doubt it. Like, remember, the euro US dollar was stuck in a $4 range for almost a year before all this. And now it's been in a $4 range for basically the past month and a half. that could stay for the next 6 months, 8 months. We could be stuck in this range with the euro US dollar, you know, but not like, yeah, sorry.
You know, what got you involved, you know, in the currency market?
Initially,
yeah.
My biggest thing was when I first started on the trading floor, I was working in the OEX and then in the S&Ps, and I would watch the interest rates because the bonds were the first thing that I started to trade.
Right.
And I knew that what are the components of the major things? Like you have gold, you have interest rates, and you have currencies. Those are the dynamics that ebb and flow in cycles.
Yeah.
Whether it has nothing to do with geopolitics, those ebb and flow in cycles. The stock market is a totally different dynamic, you know, and I would see how when we would have big moves in the S&Ps where interest rates aren't moving, but then all of a sudden you see these huge currency moves. Yeah. And I'd be like, well, where did this come from? Okay. And then I would start to see how the dollar, you know, it's the question is, you know, does the dog wag the tail or does the tail wag the dog kind of thing, you know, and that would be the thing was where, you know, the S&Ps is too broad to sometimes get a hold out of, especially the volatility on any given day. But you get trends, but they're hard to manage. Currencies, you catch trends, and they're very easy to manage once you're in them. I mean, unless you make stupid, undisciplined, you know, mistakes. Sure. You know, so that's really what got me into the currencies.
That's pretty cool, man. So you were one of those guys taking all my money in the OEX pit, huh?
Well, no, that's where I started as a runner when I was 18. I was just clerking in the OEX pit. I wasn't trading in the OEX.
Let me tell you something, folks. The OEX, oh my God! You know, you'd either go to hell or you go to heaven, man. I mean, I love trading it, but I'll tell you, man.
I used to work for Pershing on the floor there in 1989, and the reason I was in the OEX pit was because United Airlines. That was when the takeover bid was going on there, so that post was just jamming. Yeah. And I was tall, and I was a hockey player. And my desk manager is like, he's like, you're bigger than the rest of our guys here. He's like, how about you run the OEX? Can you pile drive through people? I'm like, sure, I can get your orders in.
Oh my God.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So
no,
fun times.
It's so cool, that explanation about the currencies, because, you know, you always read about, well, I mean, the guy that owns the Red Sox, right? I mean, they're trend followers, and it seems that the currencies stay in trend much longer than anything else, meaning with the vehicles that we trade. You know, you can kind of go through the vehicles we trade. Yeah, that's intriguing, man. Yeah.
And you know what? There's only so many variables that can dominate your view with currencies. You know, it hasn't. Currencies are not political. Whatever dollar or currency you're talking about, they don't care whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a communist, a socialist. They don't. It does not care. Yeah. You know. So
cool.
It's a good thing.
So cool, man. I'm telling you. Well, listen, we appreciate the education, and every trading day, folks, you can reach Teddy at forex-trading-unlock.com, forex-trading-unlock.com. And, you know, the bottom line is that it is really intriguing where the euro, you know, is at the top of the range and the pound's at the bottom. So, like, okay, man, is that going to be it, or is one of them going to crack, right? Yeah.
I think we're going to see a move, but just not for a while.
Yeah. Okay, man. Have a great one. Have a safe one. Tommy and I look forward to speaking to next Wednesday.
Take care, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
see you later.
Stay right there, folks. Come right back. Dow down 155. NASDAQ is up 31. S&Ps are up 3.5. We'll come right back.